I've been playing Stardew Valley since its release in 2016, and I had yet to even think about attempting the Joja route. At first, I stayed away out of moral obligation, and then when my eyes were opened to the reality that no one but me is helping the Stardew economy, I stayed away because of the lack of rewards. I'm a sucker for free things, sue me. However, this is all about to change. You see, I didn't just see if I could complete the Joja route. No, I wanted to see how fast I could complete this route. Now, I do want to mention I'm no speedrunner or min-maxer. I just consume copious amounts of Stardew Valley content in my free time. Again, you're free to sue me. As a result of my, let's call it research, I have come to see the value of the Joja route. It's considerably fast. You don't have to meticulously keep track of your progress and items. And to be honest, the town was heading in that direction anyway. And so it's time to begin my descent into becoming a proud Joja patron. Of course, I had to make myself blue. Joja runs deep within these veins. To be honest, I probably got poisoned by my Joja consumption while working in the cubicle farm. Rumor has it, whenever Joja wants to get rid of an employee, they simply give them more Joja Cola. Yes, I'm looking at you, skeleton guy. Besides unhealthily basing my appearance on a huge corporation that won't even bother to remember me, I picked the Riverland farm purely for the fish smoker. I don't love that it requires coal, a resource that is easy to drain in the early game, but it does increase the fish's sell price by quite a lot, which I feel like can be an early money making move. Along with the smoker, I'm going to focus on getting as much farming experience as possible so that I can get a high enough level to unlock preserve jars. I'm not aiming for kegs with this playthrough since they can take quite a long time to unlock, especially without the help of any free items from a bundle, just saying. Once I emerge from the cutscene purgatory, I quickly planted my 15 free parsnips. Unfortunately, I could not fish this day as Willie had not made his appearance yet, so instead I decided to clear a bit of the farm. I tried to loot some trash cans, and of course I had to make a visit to Joja. Let me just say, Joja does not have a lot going for it right now. Not only do I not get anything in return for forking out my cash to better the community, Joja itself is so far away and I walk at the speed of a dying turtle. Unfortunately for me, Morris was not selling his membership this day. Surely that has to be bad for business, but I didn't tell him this. I'm coming for his job, so his lack of work ethic is actually quite good for me in the long run. Because I don't have this membership yet, Joja prices are absolutely absurd. And then I go scavenging because no part of this town will be off limits for my exploitation. Luckily, I found quite a bit of forage and even a whole pie in the trash, and so I ship most of my finds since I wouldn't have to worry about gifting or hoarding supplies with this route. The next day, Pierre, of course, taunted me with talks of his backpack upgrade. I've only been here a day, and he's already pointing out the ways in which I'm subpar. It's like he wants me to choose Joja. Luckily, my next piece of mail was from Willie. He was finally ready to give me a fishing rod, which would allow me to start my fish smoking empire. At least someone in this decrepit town has my back. And so, I quickly watered my crops, checked the help wanted board where I picked up a fishing task and headed straight for the beach. The rest of my day was consumed with fishing. Eventually, I scurried my way back home, selling some of my more low-value fish before heading to bed. I only gained one fishing level, but there's always tomorrow. Day 3 of living and breathing the Joja route was a rainy day. The promise of fresh catfish haunted me, but I knew my skills were not quite up to the task. With the downpour, I luckily got out of watering my crops and settled for doing a quick round of scavenging before heading to Joja. Since I had never done the Joja route before, I thought it was better safe than sorry to check the store just about every day. I was just so excited to re-enter the world of Joja after leaving the corporate office, okay? After I talked myself down from being too disappointed for my lack of membership, I picked up a help wanted quest. You can't say I'm not a thriving member of this community now, can you? And headed toward the mountain lake to fish my was away. Once I got back to my farm for the night, I saved some of my fish for the smoker, now just waiting to get my hands on some coal before chucking some of my finds in the shipping bin. It seemed my fishing efforts paid off. I snagged myself fishing level 3 in the process, while also netting a nice chunk of change. The next day was off to a rough start. It seems like members of Pelican Town have a thing for trying to get me to buy their services. First it was Pierre, now Robin. Instead of trying to swindle me out of my money, maybe they should focus some of that energy on helping the town. Just saying. Instead of heading straight back to the fishing grind, I decided to scope my farm out for some wild seeds. They're just free money in my book at this point, and in the process of cleaning up my property, I finally got my blue hands on some coal, allowing for my fish smoking business to begin operations. In high spirits, I went back to foraging while dropping off a wild horseradish for Pierre on my way, where I bought some more potato seeds. After dealing with Pierre, I went straight back to business, foraging and smoking my fish. I even took time to fish on my farm, trying to take advantage of having chosen the Riverland farm in the first place. The grind truly never stops, even if the energy runs out. While day 4 was not as fruitful as the previous day, I still managed to gain another fishing level and net a decent amount of gold. As the next day rolls around, the mines finally open, and along with it, a more reliable source of coal. Of course, Clint greets us in the morning, and he's the first villager who's not trying to wring me dry for my money. And I guess Marnie was inspired by this because she's next to show up with my cat, Joja. With Joja by my side, I was able to harvest my initial parsnip. On my way to get more seeds, I fished while waiting for the museum to open. While I don't plan on completing the collection, I would like to get the free seeds Gunther gives as a reward. So, after donating what I could, I sold my parsnips and bought more potatoes. With the rest of my day, I thought it best to spend my time in the mines, trying to source coal. Fortunately, I was able to gather some, making it to floor 15 my first day. However, I still had some time left in the day, so with my new coal stashed in my backpack, I thought it best to smoke as many fish as I could before the day ended. By the end of the day, I had gained a farming level from harvesting my parsnips, and I had sold 1k gold a fish. Now that my fish business is up and running, I just need to get my grubby little hands on that Joja membership. Day 6 was another rainy day. Yoba must be looking down on me since I don't need to water my crops and can get straight to my money-making ways. I did a quick run around the town, looking for forage and anything I could find in the trash, after which I headed to the mountain lake in search of some more largemouth bass. When I did get my hands on some, I had spent so much of my time fishing that I did not get to make a huge profit this day, as I didn't have enough time to smoke all my finds. By the next day, my dad had my back as he gifted me 500 gold. It's a small price for him to pay, considering him and my mom, if she even exists, decided to let the farm go to waste during the 2 decades I had to wait to move here. How things would have been different if they put a little bit more effort in. Anyway, this day was a harvesting day. So I did just that. I harvested my potatoes and immediately replanted them. And yes, at this point, I could have triggered the community center cutscene, which would allow me to then access that sought after Joja membership. But I had money on the mind and kept entering town way too early for the scene to trigger. After my farming duties were done for the day, can you guess what I did? I wonder. I did change it up a little bit and decided to fish in the forest, but I should have probably focus my efforts more on the mountain for that beloved largemouth bass. And then for some reason, I decided to introduce myself to some of the townspeople. I guess I just wanted everyone to know who would be bringing the town to its Joja glory. I can't, in good conscience, let Morris take all the credit for it, but at the end of this day, I got fishing level 5, and I went with the obvious choice, Fisher, all while bringing home a decent amount of gold. By the time I will finally have the option to get the membership, I'll have more than enough money to buy it now. Fortunately for me, the very next day, I was able to put my money where my mouth was and buy that Joja membership. Of course, I skipped through the community center cutscene as I didn't want Lewis to taint my mind, and I snuck a quick look around. The place is a total mess, but I did need to take in the sights before it became a fully fledged warehouse. Before stopping at Joja, I did waste some time at Pierre's buying some more potato seeds. Hey, that community center cutscene messed with my head, okay? But with my new Joja membership in hand, I can assure you everything is about to change. I can feel it, except not really. My somewhat daily routine still remains largely the same. I went back to the farm to plant my new crops and spent the remaining time fishing. I only managed to make a couple hundred gold this day, but I did snag level 2 foraging. The next day, I decided to brave the mines, making it all the way to level 35 with a decent amount of coal in my pockets. Before I went to bed, I made sure to smoke a largemouth bass, but couldn't stay up for too long to smoke any more fish, as 2 a.m. was fast approaching. I pocketed new mining and combat levels, but like the foraging skills, these won't be too important to my money-making schemes. On the 10th, Robin once again tried to get me to waste my money on her services. Will she ever learn? Ignoring her desperate sales attempts, I had better things to do with my time. I made a quick stop to Joja to pursue the bundles. Since I had never done the Joja route, I wanted to double check how much money I was really trying to make here. 135,000 gold to be exact. And thus, I decided I would try and unlock the higher costing bundles first. This way, with the desert unlocked, I would have access to starfruit, and if I was able to make enough money for the desert, the greenhouse would be shortly behind. Everything else can come after those two things. To show my dedication to Joja, I took the opportunity to stop purchasing my potato seeds at Pierre's and instead replaced Pierre's with Joja. No more need for Pierre and his prices. Thank you, Morris. Before I planted my new seeds, I did a little foraging before ending the day at the beach to fish. Smoking my fish is beginning to pay off as I net a couple $1,000 this way. Calico Desert, here I come. With my good luck day, I harvested a bigger batch of potatoes. I got the quest to find Robin's axe. Will this woman let me live my life in peace, please? And I did actually help find her find that axe, all before donating a few things to Gunther to get those sweet, sweet cauliflower seeds. Of course, I do take a stop at Joja to replenish my potato seeds and stop by the newly converted warehouse. Isn't it beautiful? You can laugh at that if you want. Anyway, I do end up dropping the axe off with Robin, happy to deposit the extra cash, and then I tend to the farm as I spend some time smoking the fish I had been saving in my chest. However, my once decent pile of coal is dwindling down pretty fast, so I craft a machine to convert wood to coal and start pumping out both coal and smoked fish, and thus begins my smoking empire and my deforestation movement. You're welcome, Pelican Town. By the end of the night, I do reach farming level 2, another step to preserve jars, which at this point, I don't know if the preserve jars will be as beneficial as smoking all this fish, especially with my Fisher perk. At the end of this night, I do net quite a bit of gold from both my potato yield and my smoking efforts. The 12th is very similar to the day before. Since I have a stockpile of fish still, I spend most of my time gathering wood to turn it into coal and placing my stockpile fish into the smoker, which lets me end the day with another good profit. And that profit comes in handy the next day, where I quickly tend to my potatoes before heading to the egg hunt to get some strawberry seeds. I even humor myself and win the egg festival in order to assert my dominance around the town. Don't think Morris's lack of invite goes unnoticed to me, because it doesn't. You'll pay for that, Lewis. When I finally get back home, I plant and water my strawberries, the spring onions coming in clutch for a boost of energy while I continue to convert wood to coal. Unfortunately, I have run out of fish to smoke, so I'll have to hold off on that for the rest of the night. With my strawberries planted, my crop field is becoming rather large, but despite this, I still head over to Joja to replenish the seeds for the potatoes I harvested that morning. And then I promptly head back to the mountain lake in search of more largemouth bass, since it has been my highest earning fish I've caught so far, and it just begs itself to be thrown in the smoker. Fortunately, I was able to catch quite a few, and so I headed back to the farm to smoke some before heading to bed, where I grew more levels in farming, foraging, and fishing. It seems my efforts really are starting to pay off, and pay off they did, because the next day Demetrius greets me at my door since I earned over 25k gold, offering me either a mushroom or bat cave. To be honest, I don't really plan to use the cave as a huge money-making tactic skeptic, so I just opt for the bats, which is not my usual choice. I'm shaking things up here in all aspects for the save file, apparently. For the first half of the day after Demetrius's visit, I tend to my crops, smoke some fish, and convert some coal before heading to the mines, where I finally make it to the levels with the dust sprites. I'm able to end the night at floor 50 and with over 20 coal in my pockets. On the 16th, I definitely have enough money for my first big purchase at Joja. But like I said, I've got my sights set on the big ticket items first. So I check my mail, and now this time both Pierre and Willie are trying to get me to waste my hard-earned cash on them. No thank you, but I will take the praise from the Stardew Valley Tribune. The praise must have got to my head because I buy seeds from Pierre for some reason. I don't know what got into me, but I do a little bit of foraging for some salmon berries before heading to my beloved mountain lake to fish the night away. I let myself pass out and wake up the next day to smoke my fish from yesterday. With some better sense, I buy more seeds at Joja. In hindsight, I probably should have bought them in bulk, but then I come back to the farm where I spend the day smoking my fish while also fishing for more fish on the farm, trying to make use of the Riverlands farm. I end the day with a profit of over 7k, and it seems like someone must be keeping tabs on me because my dad thinks I'll spend my hard-earned gold, which is meant for Joja, on his retirement. It's almost as if he's trying to pretend he did not let my grandfather's farm go into complete disarray. Putting my dad out of my mind, I head up to the mountain lake in search of more of those high-earning fish. At this point, I want to be a little more strategic about the fish I'm smoking, so I'm not wasting coal on low-value fish like I might have done in the beginning. Because of my good fish haul on the 18th, I spent Friday primarily smoking and getting coal to keep my smoking business up and running. I end this night with about 5k profit. Luckily, the next day is a rainy day, so not only do I not have to water crops, I can spend my time in search of catching catfish. Or so that was the plan after replenishing my potato field. I headed to the river near Marnie's ranch and set up shop there. I was able to catch a few catfish before heading to bed, where I gained level 4 in farming, finally unlocking the preserve jars while also reaching level 8 in fishing. On the 21st, not only did I have my catfish to smoke, but my first batch of strawberries were ready for harvest. On top of it all, I'm getting very close to the 40k I need to unlock the desert. I can almost taste the sand in the air. I spend the day collecting enough materials for the preserve jars, and then I check the fruit cavern I've neglected before I dedicate my time to smoking my fish. After almost all my fish are smoked for the day, I bring home a hefty profit of around 10k. At the start of the next day, I'm so close to reaching 40k that I head back up to the mountain lake to see if I can catch more largemouth bass. Because I spend most of the day fishing instead of smoking, profits aren't too terribly high, but I have finally reached 40k. But I've just got money on the brain because I spend the next day just smoking and getting coal, since the real benefit of the desert won't be unlocked until I get the greenhouse unlocked or it's summer. It's not much of a big deal to put this big purchase off for a little while. The 24th, I've still got money on the mind, collecting my first round of preserves and heading back toward the mountain lake to fish. On the 25th, I finally fork over the cash to fix the bus and then promptly change things up a bit and head to the mines in search of coal. I go to the snowy floors and end the day with a decent stash of coal to continue my smoking business, which has been thriving as of late. They didn't lie when they said join us, thrive. Sadly, the next day, my potato empire comes to a close as the spring season is nearly over. But instead of letting that get me down, I spend the day fishing and smoking my fish, which allows me to bring in a little over 10k profits, all while gaining another farming and fishing level. We don't need to talk about the fact I spent the energy to continue to water my strawberries, even though they were done producing for the season. Shh. The Joja Cola must have gotten to my brain. Because I had so much good luck in the mines a couple days ago, I head back there, but my luck must not have been so good because I don't return with as much coal as I would have liked. So I leave the mines earlier in the night and spend the remaining time wandering around the area for some forage, since I am out of fish to smoke. I don't want the last day of the season to be as depressing as the 27th, so I head over to the mountain lake, caught a decent amount of largemouth bass, smoked some of them, and then safely and securely went to bed as the profits rained down on me as I got ready to head into the summer season. Now that it's summer and I have access to starfruit, using the greenhouse will kind of be pointless. So I'm now going to be running against the clock. Will I be able to complete the Joja route when my starfruit are done being planted, or will my fish empire allow me to complete even earlier than that? We'll just have to trudge through the summer to see. With the starfruit planted, my funds went down considerably. No longer am I as close to unlocking the greenhouse. Not that it will be super vital to my efforts at this point. For the remainder of the day, I smoked fish while also catching fish on the farm. As the profits rolled in, this is the moment I was a little disappointed by the preserve jars. I have put some roe in them, and at this point it does not seem like they'll help my effort to buy the bundles in any significant way with the number of jars that I do have. So the next day I went foraging, I found a sandfish in the trash, and then I headed toward the beach to fish before heading back to bed for the day. On the 3rd of summer, I tended to my precious starfruit and then widened my deforestation movement as I cut down lots of trees in the forest. Since I had run out of spring onions and salmon berries, I bought some salads from Gus and then went back to smoking my fish and converting wood to coal. This allowed me to end the day with a decent amount of gold. The 4th was another fishing day spent at the beach, where I got some pufferfish and super cucumbers. I can't wait to chuck them in the smoker because of the time spent fishing, and yes, I do know I could carry the fish smoker with me, but I just didn't want to, especially with my smaller backpack space. On the 5th, I decided to head back up to the mountain lake to fish, where I managed to catch a few sturgeon. Following a busy day of fishing, the 6th was another day of deforestation and fish smoking. At this point, I honestly do not feel bad for coming all the way to Pelican Town to support the big corporation while simultaneously destroying the ecosystem in the process. I mean, the town was headed in this direction anyway. Why should it all be up to me to fix everything? Well, me and the Junimos. At the end of the night, I gained foraging level 5, and obviously I went with Forester since it will aid my coal efforts. Honestly, I was yet again disappointed by the preserve jar operations, so I just decided to give up on it altogether at that point. On Sunday, I headed back to the beach in search of some more super cucumbers, and I even managed to snag myself a dino egg. And all my time playing Stardew up until this point, I had never got one so early, and so yes, I was maybe a little bit salty, but I think this just shows the power of Joja, am I right? I'm thriving here. Because yeah, my luck did not stop at the dino egg that day. No, I was able to catch 6 super cucumbers, and so I knew as soon as possible I had to throw them in the smoker, but not before I went to Joja the very next day to finally unlock the greenhouse. After bettering the community through my profits, I headed back to the farm and spent the day smoking my fish, which allowed me to end the day with over 10k gold. Having smoked all my super cucumbers, I set out back to the beach the next day, but I was not so lucky this day, having only caught 2 super cucumbers. But I did reach level 10 fishing, which allowed me to choose angler, so my fish are now worth 50% more. In hindsight, I probably should have tried to reach level 10 way sooner. The next day, I went back to the beach looking for even more super cucumbers, since I now would get even more profit for them. Once again, I was not as lucky as I had been in the past, only able to catch a couple of them. On the 11th, I ignored the festival, as I rightly should, and made a day of smoking my fish instead, ending the night with over 13k profits. Waking up the next day, I had enough money to unlock the bridge, so the first thing I did in the morning was go to Joja, leaving me with only 2 more bundles, which I know I'll be able to afford once my starfruit is ready. Despite knowing I could sleep through the next couple of days until the harvest was ready, I spent the rest of the day smoking more fish, netting a decent amount of money in the process. Since the 13th was a rainy day, I kind of went against what I just said because I just threw caution to the wind and hit the hay shortly after waking up, since I needed just one more day until the starfruit was ready. On the 14th, I harvested all my precious starfruit and sold them to Pierre so he could cower in fear as I became rich enough to buy the remaining Joja bundles. Unfortunately, I could not buy both of them in one day, so I settled for buying the painting bundle first. And yes, with With the starfruit profits, I most definitely could have spared 2K for a backpack upgrade somewhere along the way, but it's so much sweeter knowing that Pierre never got his grimy hands on that money, even if I did buy way too many potatoes from him early on. On the 15th, I patiently waited outside Joja before purchasing the minecarts, successfully buying all the Joja bundles on summer 15. I'm pretty happy with how fast I got everything. While it might not be the fastest in-game time possible, it is pretty fast for me, all things considered. However, because of the rain on day 16, I did have to wait for the Joja celebration to take place. Sleeping my woes away, I woke up on the 17th to a sunny day and was finally able to bask in finishing the main Joja route after years and years of ignoring it. And with that, my time as a loyal customer of Joja has come to a close. It only took less than half a year, faster than I've ever been able to complete the community center, if I'm being honest. But I must say, I don't know if I'll willingly take this route again for casual gameplay. I mean, to be honest, I did not feel like I was corrupting the town by choosing a huge corporation over a small town's community. Like I said before, in my opinion, Pelican Town was headed in this direction before I even entered the picture. But for me, the Joja route does take some of the heart out of the game. I largely ignored the community and the villagers, which does not necessarily have to be a part of the Joja route, but I'm just gonna blame Joja anyway. I can thrive just fine without them, even if it does possibly take me almost twice as long. Like I said, I'm a sucker for free things. Joja, they did not give me anything. With that being said, thank you so much for joining me on my Joja journey. Make sure to subscribe if you're interested in similar videos in the future. Bye!